Hello and welcome to the latest edition of CharitEpulse. My name is Catherine Rastongi. I head the charities practice at Shakespeare Martineau, and I'm joined today by my usual co-hosts, Charles Mosquita, Charity Investment Director at Quilter Cheviot, and James Saunders, Charity Audit Partner at Moore Kingston Smith. So we've been having a nosy through the charity press this week to see what stories have caught our eye. The first one I'm starting with relates to the Church of England Investment Fund and how much endowment growth they have seen year on year, which is now marking their 17th consecutive year of growth. The fund is now £11.6 billion. Sorry to those charities that might not have such huge reserves, but yes, the Church of England has a lot. Charles, I'm going to come to you because it's always going to be, you'll have crawled all over this, I am sure, to pick out any interesting points that were reported.
Yeah, to be fair to the Church of England, a reasonable part of that is for pension schemes for their clergy. So it's not all reserves. I mean the bit that I lightened on not was the performance. We've obviously had a prolonged positive markets over the last 15 to 20 years, but that there has been a shift of emphasis in that the church has a group advising it called the Ethical Investment Advisory Group. And effectively, it covers sort of the national investment bodies, which is Church Commissioners, Church of England Pension Board, and the CBF, Church of England Funds. And what is interesting is, although they haven't changed policy, they've softened it around defence. So therefore, churches can now invest in companies to do with UK defence and NATO related. Which is quite a seismic shift. I have to say they've been a little bit behind the curve, but that's probably not hugely surprising. It's a debate that certainly, in fact, I'll take some credit, we led on about 2 years ago, which has much more to do with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Obviously the antics between America and the rest of NATO and the build-up of military in places like China. So it has become a very topical issue, and the sort of the basis is that if you've got a strong defence, you've got a strong deterrent, and therefore it's in the right interest for charities. Where for most of my investment career, avoiding arms has been very easy because one, there was an investment case, and secondly, from a moral point of view, it was taken. So there's just been a shift of stance as far as that is concerned.
James, did you see any interesting tidbits in their accounts or less of a...
Not my specialist subject, this particular matter. So I'll ask Charles a question, if that's all right, in his experience. Okay. Charles, do you think this will change dramatically in any way, any decisions that some of these boards will make in the future? Is it opening up different avenues for them?
So where I think that there is I suppose there's a realization, I think, amongst charities. There's definitely been a shift towards charities' thought process towards responsible investment and the whole emphasis of it. So there had been quite an evangelical move around divesting from fossil fuels and things like that. And I think people are coming to the realization that this is much more complex. And less sort of black and white, and therefore there are quite a lot of nuances around it. And one of the big debates that's been going on for the last 10 to 15 years around is, do you engage or do you divest? And I think there seems to be a shift back towards much more of taking a proactive approach and engaging to make change rather than just sort of ruling something completely out. But you've had quite a big shift in the US around the whole of these issues, and it just, I think it's just meant that the course is still being set, but it's just a slightly different tact.
Very good. Were you impressed with that answer, James?
I was, thank you. Yeah.
You coped well under pressure. Okay, good.
Blown away, I hope.
Yeah, gold star. Next article I'd seen. This, I don't know if you'll have to work on your surprised faces, and our listener will have to imagine you're both doing it, but there has been some government commissioned research that found that larger charities win most public procurement contracts delivered by the sector, with small and micro organisations, quote, almost entirely absent from the market. Are we surprised by this news? Is this not what we have been hearing for some time? And also not exclusively to charities either. It said the pattern is similar for CICs, where large and major CICs account for over 60% of contracts. James, to you first.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting what they call larger charities. That's anything over £1 million. They call larger charities account for nearly 2/3 of contracts, but they only make up a very small, only 5.5% of total charities. So the discrepancy is quite stark. But I mean, when all said and done, only those larger, and I'm doing the inverted commas signal, larger charities will have the structure or the desire, I think, probably to really engage with government contracts in that way. You know, an awful lot of those smaller charities are just not in the slightest bit interested in government contracts. They're, fundraisers and much more focused, nuanced, personal organisations. So I'm unsurprised, face, if that is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought interesting as well that the researchers said they found the public were more open to charities delivering some public services such as employment and mental health support rather than businesses. And also, there was evidence that civil society organisations bring distinctive qualities to public service delivery, such as community embeddedness, flexibility, responsiveness, trust, independence. But I suppose it's whether they're getting paid for bringing those things
Yes,
to the
but
party.
also thought leadership. They're leading the way in some of these areas. I work with a number of charities who are, absolutely at the forefront of it. It's not just take the money and do things with it. It is leading in those areas. Sector leaders that I know of and have as clients. So, it's in a lot of areas it's leading as well as just doing.
Yeah. Charles, had you seen this article?
Yeah, I had, and the comment I picked up was around that from the research that came back that civil society works well as an intermediary between the sort of the people service users and the statutory bodies. And I have to say, my immediate reaction was no ... Sherlock. I mean, This is so obvious, it's unbelievable. And the thing is that and this is why I think government gets it so wrong. Procurement, I know James has been through it, I've been through it, and we do it on a commercial basis. But, if you haven't got the size of organisation, you haven't got the people, you can't do the tenders. It's just so time consuming. It's expensive. The system is predicated to larger businesses. It talks about wanting to get, it generally ends up trying to get the best price, get the lowest price rather than best value for money. Well, if civil society is going to deliver the best value for money, why isn't it working out how to make it so that they have an equal playing field? And it shouldn't be on the wit of man. I mean, a private company is there to make profit. There is a completely different viewpoint and attitude from charities who are out there to do the best for their beneficiaries. So, they're always going to be mission driven, and they're always going to be in a better way, potentially in a better way of delivering those sort of service deliveries. So, if government wants to be serious about this, it needs to have a different way of going about procurement, because it is clunky. It's not fit for purpose. I can tell you the systems I've used. I mean, they are an absolute nightmare, and you really do lose the will to live.
Yeah. On that note, I'll move us to another story then, Charles. Stay with us. Don't go towards that light. This one, I think it's the second article this week that I'd seen about the Charity Commission having to get involved in looking into comments that are alleged to have been made either by trustees of charities, by chairs of charities, by people involved in charities, making comments on social media that are then reported in the press that then run away with themselves in terms of people agreeing or disagreeing or objecting. And I just thought, as a point of principle, it was interesting, I think, about whether in general people believe they can cut themselves in two and say, I can say what I like on social media when I say this is Catherine talking, me as an individual, not me as an employee of this or a trustee of the other, just me, versus you can never cut yourself into, and whatever you do say does reflect on the organisations, whether charitable or otherwise, that you're involved with. So here I thought it's creating a bit of a mess really for the Charity Commission to have to keep getting involved in these mini storm in a teacup when they have given guidance on this previously. So I wasn't sure whether, James, if I come to you first, whether you'd seen this story, whether there were bits of it that stuck out to you.
I hadn't seen it before you pointed it out to us, Catherine, but as you say, it is one of a number of very similar themes along a similar theme, which is the Charity Commission having to get involved where someone has said something and there have been complaints and defence and letters and campaigns and all sorts of things. So it all gets uh, all gets out of control. I think your point earlier about as if you're going to be a charity trustee, I think you've got to have some recognition that you've got some responsibility in aspects to that charity and to that role, and it is very difficult. And the Charity Commission has said it is very difficult, and they advise against trying to make comments that that you're not you're doing independently of a position you hold. So I do think it's difficult. I do think this is, be, best will in the world. Don't go controversial in your comments. I mean, the stuff that was spoken about here, if you like, it's just it's a red rag to a set of balls. So I don't know. I think you just got to be a bit more responsible. I mean, if you want to speak your mind and not be bound by rules, then just do it all independently, resign all those roles or get out of it and do your own thing.
Yeah. Say it into the mirror, perhaps, in the privacy of your own home. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because the charity involved gave a comment and they said, their spokesperson said, all its board members have the right to exercise their freedom of expression within the law. The personal views of individual members of our board do not represent the views of name of charity and in no way affect our programming, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, well, the fact you're having to put a statement out saying that
Yeah.
it's not a great look for your charity.
But the problem is, and the more higher profile an individual you are, the more it's going to be the case. But I think about myself. I'm a trustee of a number of organisations. I work for Quilt Achievement, and I'm an obviously personal individual. Now, I can express stuff in what I think is personal capacity, but actually, sorry, if people read it, if they know I work for a place or I'm a trustee, there's going to be that cross contamination. We all tell our kids to be very careful about what they put on social media. When I was growing up, there wasn't any social media, and now we are, and we're living with it and learning to deal with it. But as adults, we don't seem to follow our own advice to what we would give to our children. And the difference is, I'm a great believer people should be vocal, and I'm a great believer people should be able to debate and have freedom of thought and everything else. But the difference of having a debate in the open thing and doing it on social media, where it's recorded for all time and it can be taken out of context, or it can be misunderstood or misread, or the way you meant it wasn't the way that it's been interpreted, means you have got to be doubly careful whenever you're putting anything down in writing about how that may be interpreted or misconstrued, if that may be the case. And also the other thing I find really, really sort of slightly irritating is that every time somebody it becomes controversial, they all say it's being misunderstood or misrepresented. And well, if that's the case, then don't put it down.
Yeah. The ingredients were still there from the original topic, I think, for someone to misconstrue it. But yeah, I mean, I would agree. The next article I'd seen here, I don't know if it's more of a kind of clickbait title, because it was the title that caught my eye, and it said, most charities boards do not understand fundraising, said the chief executive of the Chartered Institute of Fundraising this week. And I suppose my initial reaction to that was, as a board member myself, is it my job to be a fundraising expert? I mean, I would say I do understand fundraising. But I suppose the article did go on to say some charities were mistakenly reducing their fundraising spend because the return on investment for fundraising takes longer as they perceive it. She also mentioned there's some ongoing problem that fundraising is seen as a cost to each charity rather than something that should be invested in. Charles, did you have a visceral reaction to this one or just a casual?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I think that the comments when they didn't put perspective around it. I mean, if we think about over the last 20 years, charities have got much better at the ask, and fundraising has become much more sophisticated, and people have become much more knowledgeable. But the problem is, what that has done is it's created a massive amount of noise in the marketplace, of which for those giving, I think just makes it even more confusing, and they're getting asked more often, so becoming immune to it. So what's happening is the larger charities with the bigger brands obviously are doing better than the particularly the sort of middle to smaller charities. And the problem that the middle to smaller charities have to do is that they have to do something exceptional to be able to stand out from a crowd. And yeah, I mean, I have to say, as a trustee that raises money for for medical research, I really worry about the ratio of how much money we spend on to raise money, and that ratio has definitely been going in the wrong direction in the last 5 to 10 years. So, do I think the boards are whether we had a whole lot of experts on our board, would we be any better? I suspect not.
Yeah. James, any thoughts? The article did say she advised fundraisers to become charity trustees themselves,
I think that's a
saying,
great idea. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
best way to overcome a lack of board level
Yeah,
understanding.
yeah. And I think there is, and this might sound a bit like semantics, but I think there is a difference between a lack of understanding and misunderstanding. A lack of understanding, okay, you might not know quite as much in detail as a professional fundraiser might, absolutely. As you said earlier, Catherine, that's not a trustee's job. A trustee's job is to know enough that they aren't a danger and can understand what's going on and can be advised accordingly. Misunderstanding the trustee board's misunderstanding fundraising, which I don't think this lady particularly said, but that is more dangerous because that's suggesting that you're getting it wrong. There's actually an error or as I said, a misunderstanding in it, which means that you might come to the wrong conclusions. I think lack of understanding, hopefully it can be clarified to you. Misunderstanding suggests to me more like there are wrong decisions being made. And I'm not quite sure that that's where this went.
Yeah. Well, thank you, chaps. I think interesting chats this week. So please do give us any feedback. Feel free to like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends and family, share this with anyone you think might find it of interest. We hope you can join us for a future session of Charity Pulse.